Greetings from our channel again. Even after being publicly smacked by Glen Campbell, Tanya Tucker continued to date him. After partying with the top singers and drowning herself in cocaine, she lost everything and was rejected by the country music industry. Decades later, however, the lady who had reached her lowest point was on the Grammy stage with the trophy she had spent her whole life pursuing. How was it possible for a musician who appeared doomed by scandals, addiction, and discrimination to triumph once more? Tanya Tucker is more than simply a vocal icon. She is among the most divisive personalities in country music. From a turbulent and violent relationship with Glen Campbell to years of drug and alcohol abuse, from being a teenage star to a rebel who defied all conventions, from her unexpected decision to become a single mother to her outspoken clashes with other artists, she never settled for silence. She faced what others shunned. She transformed what was deemed incorrect into her signature. However, there was a high cost for that same defiance. She was originally written off as a thing of the past, but at 60, she made a victorious comeback that rekindled the country music industry. She had been absent from major prizes for years, only to receive a Grammy after 14 unsuccessful nominations. There is no fairy tale here. It's a voyage filled with unexpected resurrections, setbacks, and surprises. What actually transpired during Tanya Tucker's most turbulent years? Is she merely a careless person who was given another chance, or does she actually merit the moniker of legend? To find out everything, watch this video through to the conclusion. Tanya Tucker, the youngest of 3 siblings, was born in Seminole, Texas, on October 10, 1958. Her father, Jesse Melvin Bo Tucker, was neither well-off nor well-connected in the music business. He operated heavy machinery and worked at any job he could to provide for his family. Their lives were far from steady. They were frequently relocating between Texas, Arizona, and Nevada, not because they were adventurous, but rather because they had to. Bo Tucker could be working on an oil rig one day, a construction site the next, and a truck driver the day after that. However, music was a constant in the Tucker home regardless of where they resided. The sole radio in their house was filled with the sounds of country music as Tanya grew up. Every day the air was filled with the voices of Patsy Cline, Loretta Lynn, Merle Haggard, and Jimmy Rogers, permeating her spirit before she even knew it. Tanya stood out, though, because she did more than only listen. She took in, mimicked, and felt. She soon realized that the only way she might be able to escape this precarious life was through music. Tanya longed for the same acclaim that her elder sister LaCosta received from the family for her singing, but not for fun. At the age of 7, Tanya's life took a drastic turn, and she decided to pursue her dream of becoming a singer. She approached her father one day and expressed her desire to sing for him. "You couldn't carry a tune in a paper sack," observed Bo Tucker, a strong guy who had witnessed the harsh facts of life, with a dismissive laugh. Tanya, however, seemed unfazed. She sung "Your Cheatin' Heart" by Hank Williams while holding her head high. Bo Tucker fell silent in that moment. He came to a significant realization regarding his daughter. She was destined to become famous. Bo Tucker wagered everything on Tanya after that. In an attempt to secure his daughter's big break, he sold up the family's possessions, purchased a sky blue Cadillac, and transported the whole family to Nashville, the epicenter of country music. However, reality was more brutal than they had anticipated. Bo rapped on the doors of every management office and record label. However, nobody was interested in hearing a 9-year-old girl sing. Producers only shook their heads, telling him that no one wanted to hear a child perform meaningful country music, that she was too young, and that she was not marketable. The family departed Nashville with nothing and a heavy heart after being turned down 1,000,000 times. Due to their inability to make the payments, the Cadillac was even repossessed. However, they were not broken by this setback. Bo Tucker persisted in his warrior-like training of his daughter. He forced Tanya to recite passages from her sister's books over and over again in order to hone her phrasing and teach her how to put emotion into every syllable while she practiced her vocals every day. No one will believe a young girl can sing about love or heartbreak, so the most crucial instruction he ever gave her was to put twice as much passion into a song. For this reason, Tanya Tucker didn't only sing a song when she sang later. She persuaded the audience to believe the story she delivered. Dreams frequently just require one chance to come true. In 1970, Tanya Tucker had her opportunity. Her life was dramatically altered by a momentous encounter when her family relocated to St. George, Utah. Billy Sherrill, one of the most influential country music producers and the guy behind Tammy Wynette, George Jones, and Charlie Rich, was introduced to Tanya and her father there. For many artists, it would be quite fortunate to attract Sherrill's notice. Tanya, however, wasn't merely searching for a chance. She desired everything. Cheryl was initially apprehensive about a young vocalist such as Tanya. He recommended that she record "The Happiest Girl in the Whole USA," a cheery, lighthearted song that fit the image of a 13-year-old girl. Tanya, however, declined without question. She went with "Delta Dawn" instead. A somber ballad about heartbreak, loneliness, and dashed hopes that Bette Midler recently sang on The Tonight Show. A 13-year-old girl singing about a forgotten middle-aged woman who was lost and longing for a man who would never come back. Stunned, but fascinated, was Cheryl. After entering the recording booth, Tanya closed her eyes and started singing. It wasn't a child's voice. It was an ancient soul's voice, worn and full of emotion. Any uncertainties that were present in the room disappeared as the melody developed. Billy Sherrill realized then that he had made a genuinely remarkable discovery. Delta Dawn came out in 1972. Tanya Tucker, at 13 years old, became a national celebrity after the song went viral and peaked in the top 10 on the Billboard Hot Country Songs list. Nobody could have imagined that a young girl of her age could sing a song so evocative and bursting with unadulterated passion. She was more than just a young vocalist. Her brilliance was unique to her generation. However, triumph came at a high cost. The record label purposefully concealed Tanya's true age out of fear that the audience wouldn't accept a child singing of heartbreak, betrayal, and suffering. They wanted viewers to think she was at least 16 or 17. Then controversy broke out. Is it appropriate for a little girl to perform such melancholy, mature songs? However, all hesitation vanished as soon as Tanya Tucker opened her mouth to sing. Tanya Tucker demonstrated she wasn't a one-hit wonder following Delta Dawn's surprising popularity. When "What's Your Mama's Name" was released in 1973, it shot to the top of the Billboard Hot Country Songs list right away. Tanya is now the second-ever adolescent country artist to do this, after Gene Shepard in 1953. The fact that Tanya had a #1 single at such a young age was not the only thing that made her remarkable. It was the way she sung about topics that no one believed a 15-year-old could comprehend. Tanya didn't sing happy, innocent tunes for youngsters as other young singers did. The terrifying tale of a young girl who saw her father kill her mother for adultery was told in blood red and going down. A teen girl's voice is used to deliver a song about brutality, suffering, and loss. "Would You Lay With Me, in a Field of Stone" followed. With contentious words, this creepy, haunting ballad is full of passion and loyalty till death. Although Tanya's song was never intended for young girls, audiences were unable to turn away from her performance because of its unadulterated intensity. Tanya Tucker's immense financial potential was immediately recognized by Columbia Records, which made the decision to fully capitalize on it. She was never given the opportunity to develop normally as a child. Tanya was caught up in a never-ending cycle of recording, traveling, promoting, and repeating while her colleagues sat in classrooms. They left school as the stage lights made her youth vanish. At the age of 19, Tanya Tucker made the decision that she no longer wanted to fit into the stereotype of a country singer. She made the audacious statement that no one would henceforth control her course when she published TNT in 1978. With its furious, high-energy tracks, TNT marked a defiant shift away from pure country and towards rock country. In stark contrast to the innocent country girl persona Nashville had hoped she would uphold, she wore a tight red leather costume on the album cover, her thick hair framing her piercing gaze. The establishment of country music was stunned. Conservatives in the industry called her a traitor and a crazy kid, saying she had ruined her career. Tanya, though, was unconcerned. After selling more than 500,000 copies, TNT received a gold certification from the Recording Industry Association of America, or RIAA. Given that the album signaled her abrupt shift from a traditional country sound to a bold rock country style, this was a noteworthy accomplishment. In addition to showcasing Tucker's brilliance, this achievement demonstrated that listeners were open to her music's inventiveness. The public stopped witnessing Tanya Tucker being subdued. They saw a bold celebrity who was prepared to take risks that no one else was willing to take. She was no longer merely a prodigy from the country. She was now seen as a rebellious figure. But there's always a cost to achievement. Tanya was already a legend at the age of 20, but her personal life was getting out of hand. Record executives no longer controlled her as a young girl, but she soon found herself enmeshed in a vicious cycle of drugs, drink, parties, and scandals that had engulfed many musicians before her. The shadows are darker when the spotlight is brighter. Hit albums were no longer the only aspect of Tanya Tucker's tale as the 1980s rolled around. It turned into a time of disputes, declines, and self-destruction. Was she doomed to become just another lost star, or would she be able to maintain her position in the industry? The story of Tanya Tucker was just getting started. It is incorrect to assume that Tanya Tucker was merely a gifted vocalist. She was a fierce rebel who opposed the traditional country music industry, a storm that broke all the rules, and most importantly, a lady who had reached her lowest point and still managed to get back up. When Tanya Tucker started dating the renowned Glen Campbell in 1979, she entered one of the most notorious partnerships in the history of country music. She was just 21 years old at the time, full of vigor, rebellion, and a desire to live life on the edge, whereas Campbell was 44 years old, a seasoned guy with plenty of life experience from previous marriages. Like a media bomb, their relationship burst into flames, attracting the attention of both fans and tabloids. However, the public was blind to the glitzy exterior, which concealed a chaotic and destructive love story. They had a strong, passionate, and devastating love for one another, like two wild souls. Tanya once acknowledged that despite their inability to avoid one another, she and Campbell were unable to spend time together without getting into heated disagreements. After one of their arguments got out of hand, Tanya fled their house in a panic after Campbell struck her so severely. When she disclosed that two of her front teeth were broken, the startling incident garnered media attention. Tanya did not dispute the violence, but she also did not blame Campbell alone for it when questioned about the disparity between his public persona and what she had experienced. She was unable to abandon their love in spite of the suffering. She acknowledged that it was the most profound love she had ever experienced, but she had been too young and untrained to deal with it. In retrospect, she thought that individuals frequently fail to appreciate what they have when they fall in love too soon. Drugs were what made their love even more terrible. Tanya was drawn into Campbell's downward spiral despite her desire to assist him in overcoming his addiction. Later on, Campbell acknowledged that they often used cocaine together. Tanya felt that whatever Glen Campbell did, even when it was self-destructive, was correct because she was in love with a man with his level of authority. She later characterized that time as a tornado that destroyed her career and her life. They formally ended their relationship in 1981 after innumerable splits and reconciliations, leaving Tanya in a condition of total destruction. For years afterward, she referred to it as both the greatest scar she had and the love of her life. The drama was quickly exploited by the media. Tanya Tucker, who became well known at the age of 13, was once considered a country music prodigy, a unique talent. The audience responded in a variety of ways as she grew older and got involved in a chaotic, scandalous relationship. Many tabloids portrayed her as a tainted muse, a young woman who had the potential to be the country music princess but was pulled down to the lowest levels by love and rebellion. She adored Glen Campbell, but he was more than that. He was the one who had helped guide her through the most difficult years of her life. The public's fascination was further stoked by sensational headlines, paparazzi pictures showing their furious arguments, and appearances at lavish parties. Everyone wanted to see them happen because they were a public calamity. Public criticism never frightened Tanya Tucker. She never hesitated to talk about the hurt he had given her, yet she continued to publicly show her love for Campbell for years after they broke up. "I loved him so deeply that I lost myself," she once admitted openly. "I was devastated when the relationship ended." Campbell, meanwhile, frequently attacked Tanya in the press, accusing her of causing too many issues and even suggesting that she was the source of his loss of self-control. Tanya, however, never gave up. She never hid the truth about what she had gone through, but she also never ran away from her past or denied her love for Campbell. The public's interest in their narrative was only increased by this. Tanya Tucker, who lived in California, went through a rebellious phase at the start of the 1980s. Where she became more and more dependent on drugs and booze. As a result, her career suffered. "I didn't give the future any thought at the time." She subsequently said, "I was just enjoying myself, going out, and letting life take me wherever it wanted." Bo Tucker, her father, was not amenable to this. In order to rescue his daughter from her careless way of living and return her to Nashville for a fresh start, he personally traveled to Los Angeles. However, Tanya's father informed her plainly, "Nobody wants you anymore," when she expressed a wish to resume her musical career. This was the worst shock. "In this field, you are viewed as poison." She was astonished by the remarks. Although their relationship ended in 1981, Tanya Tucker and Glen Campbell's romance was still spoken about for many years. Following the release of the song Forever Loving You, which was reportedly a tribute to Campbell, Tanya found herself in the public eye once more after his death in 2017. However, after Campbell's family openly complained and accused her of using his death as a publicity stunt, the song became the subject of intense controversy. Others, however, thought it was just Tanya's way of showing her love for the most significant guy in her life, which had never really diminished. they never lost touch with one another. As a representation of passion, defiance, and sorrow, it continues to be one of the most contentious love tales in country music. Few were able to love one another as recklessly, intensely, and destructively as Tanya Tucker and Glen Campbell did. As a result, their romance continues to rank among the most significant scandals in the history of country music. However, Tanya Tucker had other well-known men in her life besides Glen Campbell. She also unexpectedly fell in love with Merle Haggard, a fellow country music icon who was 21 years her senior. Despite their brief romance, Tanya was profoundly affected by it. "The man I always admired, but could never truly hold on to," she once said about Merle. Additionally, Tanya was romantically involved with the Bee Gees' youngest member, Andy Gibb. Andy was a pop music sensation at the time. Tanya, on the other hand, was already accustomed to intense, fast-paced relationships. However, in contrast to her past relationships, this one ended abruptly, in part because Andy was battling his own issues, such as drug use and a deteriorating profession. Don Johnson, the actor most known for his Miami Vice performance, was arguably the most unexpected name on Tanya's list of former lovers. Although brief, their romance was intense. It didn't last long, but it burned fiercely, just like many of her earlier affairs. Although it was also brief, her relationship with Ben Reed was the most serious and apparently harmonious one she had. In sharp contrast to the men who had preceded him in Tanya's life, he was a dashing, calm actor rather than a rebellious rock star or country icon. This wasn't just another short-lived romance for Tanya. She gave careful thought to something she had not anticipated: a steady family. There were no heated confrontations or crazy parties, only a unique calmness that she had never known before. However, even when it came to love, Tanya Tucker was never the type of woman to fit into any mold. Even though she and Ben Reed had a close bond, their relationship ended in the same way her other relationships did. It was over. No wedding took place. There was one unbreakable link, yet there was no open conflict in the press. Their 2 kids. 1989 saw the birth of Presley Tanita Tucker, and 1991 saw the birth of Bo Grayson Tucker. Tanya was no longer just a wild country star, she now had to deal with parenthood, a problem bigger than notoriety or a failed romance. She never considered being a single mother to be a bad thing or an error. Conversely, she was quite proud of being a mother. Ben Reed remained a responsible father who continued to be involved in their children's lives, despite the fact that their relationship ended. Tanya may have led a rebellious life, but she was quite different from her children. Devoted, protective, and serious. She was a wonderful mother without a traditional home or a guy at her side. She took her own approach. Tanya Tucker came closer to marriage than ever before, but she broke it up at the last second once more if she ever considered getting married to Ben Reed rather than Jerry Leister. Jerry was a gifted Nashville musician. Tanya and Jerry's relationship was based on mutual understanding and a love of music, unlike her tense, scandal-plagued relationship with Glen Campbell. They were engaged twice. It seemed as though fate was keeping them together but also putting barriers in their path, first in 1997 and then again in 1999. But Tanya Tucker made a startling choice as the wedding day drew near. She canceled. Why? Her pregnancy had recently come to light. She didn't want to wear a wedding gown that showed her baby belly. This would not have been a problem for many, but Tanya wanted to marry on her own terms, freely, and not under pressure from society or her responsibilities. Once more, she refused to let tradition dictate her choices and took charge of her own life. Tanya Tucker abruptly called off her wedding because she didn't want to wear a bridal gown while she was expecting. Was this a daring move by a self-reliant woman, or was it merely a pretext to postpone getting married? Do you believe she was correct or incorrect? Layla Lacosta Tucker, who bears the name of the adored sister Tanya greatly revered, was born on June 25, 1999. She became a single mother once more, but she never felt bad about it. Even though Tanya wasn't the type of lady who was meant to be married for a long time, she was a fierce and loving mother. And even though she and Jerry Lasseter never got married, their shared love of music kept them together. Tanya adored Jerry, but he was more than simply a man. He collaborated with her as well. 3 of her important albums were co-produced by him. My Turn, 2009, Tanya, 2002, and Live at Billy Bob's Texas, 2005. Tanya Tucker never followed social conventions. No long-term marriage, no lavish weddings. However, she had total control over her own life, something that many others never had. Her children, her music, and an indomitable spirit were all that remained after men came and left. Tanya Tucker was never afraid to criticize some of the greatest stars in country music and to get involved in controversy. She remained bold and outspoken in spite of her life's many highs and lows, and hesitant to allow others to force their opinions on her. Because of this, she became not just a music icon but also one of the most divisive personalities in country music history. People associate Dolly Parton with being an undisputed legend in the country music industry. Tanya Tucker, though? She didn't follow orders. At one point, she hinted that Dolly's voice was overrated and not always as perfect as everyone thought. Outrage was instantly triggered by the comment. Fans of Dolly were incensed. It was presented by the media as a contest between two country queens. Tanya, however, said nothing. No excuses, no justifications. She believed that artists had the right to express their views, and that it was not her problem if others didn't agree with them. If Tanya's criticism of Dolly Parton's voice was merely a lighthearted remark, she didn't hold back when she said that Shania Twain wasn't a true country artist and was only using country music as a stepping stone to fame during a period when her pop country hits were topping the charts. Fans of Shania were incensed by the remarks and charged Tanya with being envious of the younger generation and unwilling to acknowledge the evolution of country music. However, Tanya reiterated her position. She was not afraid to upset others, because comfort was never more important to her than the truth. Her contentious remarks weren't the only things that garnered media attention. Even when Tanya Tucker was winning, she continued to spark controversy. She was unexpectedly recognized at the 2019 CMA Awards, which should have been the climax of her lengthy career, after years of being disregarded. However, her victory sparked a contentious debate rather than widespread acclaim. Some detractors claimed that Tanya Tucker was no longer at the height of her career and that the CMA had given her the award merely to commemorate her legacy rather than in recognition of her more recent accomplishments. She's not relevant enough to deserve this award, some younger musicians and fans said openly. Tanya was unflinching in the face of the criticism. She made little effort to defend her victory or to please the detractors. Rather, she made one unrepentant statement in response. "It's okay if you believe I don't deserve it. However, I remain here and continue to sing." And she did precisely that. Regardless of how many people abandoned her, Tanya Tucker never gave up, continued to sing, and remained true to herself. She continued to be a household name in country music, whether she was liked or not. Country music was not Tanya Tucker's only career. She was a sensation. Glancing back at her created path, there is no denying that Tanya changed country music in a way that very few other musicians ever dared. She was neither a polished icon designed to preserve the genre's integrity nor the kind of charming female performer Nashville had historically welcomed. Rather, she broke down barriers, lived her own way, and refused to let anyone tell her what a female country music singer should be. It was exactly this disobedient, unwavering character that not only helped Tanya stay in the game but also established her as one of the most significant figures in subsequent generations. Tanya didn't sing about waiting, women's silent suffering, or romantic love stories like the female country singers who came before her. She sang about her experiences. Passionate relationships, errors, addiction, and irreparable heartbreak. Because of this, she stood out in the world of country music, where conventional norms frequently limited female performers. Artists like Ashley McBryde, Casey Musgraves, and Miranda Lambert might not have had the freedom to experiment and be true to themselves as they do now if Tanya Tucker hadn't been around. One of the most well-known figures in contemporary country music, Miranda Lambert, has acknowledged Tanya as her major inspiration. She saw in Tanya a woman who did what men did without seeking permission, a woman who dared to question the status quo. For female artists who wished to demonstrate their might in a traditionally male-dominated field, Tanya's tenacity, fierceness, and unrepentant demeanor cleared the path. Tanya Tucker has had a big influence on Casey Musgraves, who is sometimes criticized for not being country enough because of her unique style. Tanya taught her the value of being true to her artistic identity and creating country music according to her own terms rather than following fads. The fact that Casey was among the first musicians to push for acknowledging Tanya's contributions to the genre was no accident. Another singer who has credited Tanya with propelling her career is Ashley McBryde, who is frequently referred to as Nashville's problem kid for being too out of the box. Ashley, like Tanya, has no interest in winning over everyone. She never worried criticism, sang the things she wanted to express, and created music the way she wanted. Tanya Tucker demonstrated that success for a female artist did not require perfection. All she needed to do was be herself. However, Tanya Tucker left behind more than just the musicians she influenced. It concerns how she altered the terrain of country music in general. She became an irreplaceable legend because of her distinctive raspy voice, her intensely emotive delivery, and her bold attitude. Tanya did more than merely open the door for fearless, unreserved female musicians. She made the industry realize that country music could not continue to be confined by antiquated regulations indefinitely. Tanya Tucker made a lasting impression as a 13-year-old who dazzled Nashville with Delta Dawn and as a legend who reached her lowest point and came back stronger than before. She was more than just a vocalist. She was a natural power. Living, loving, failing, falling, and rising to fight again are all things she did. One thing is certain despite the ongoing discussion about her choices, unexpected choices, and loud remarks. Country music was permanently altered by Tanya Tucker. Tanya Tucker is no longer a country music outlaw. She is an experienced artist now. Someone who still has an unwavering love for music but has slowed down. She currently lives a tranquil life in Franklin, Tennessee, surrounded by her family, loved ones, and the pets she views as an integral part of her world, after decades of scandals, struggles, and never-ending conflicts. However, don't assume that her calmness is a sign of retreat or insignificance. Tanya Tucker has remained prominent throughout her career. Now, spending time with her kids and taking care of her cherished dogs and horses brings her the most delight. She has also stated that she wants to do even more, maybe going to Africa to help with elephant conservation or work in orphanages. She even grumbled that Noah in the Bible lived for 400 years while she would not, and she reportedly quipped that it would take her 200 years to achieve everything she wanted to do. Tanya's album While I'm Livin', which was created in partnership with Brandi Carlile and Shooter Jennings, marked a spectacular return. The record was more than just a compilation of songs, it was a statement of fortitude and a tribute to a woman who had survived all the highs and lows and had never broken. In 2020, after 14 nominations, Tanya received her first Grammy Award, marking the pinnacle of her comeback. A historic triumph. A long overdue acknowledgement of her contributions to music. Her song Bring My Flowers, which is now regarded as one of her most meaningful compositions, is a melancholic reminder to love and appreciate today before it's too late. Tanya hasn't stopped, though. She is still 65 years old and has the same charisma and audacity that have characterized her from the beginning. Her thrilling performances will continue to deliver her music to listeners in 2025. She will play at the Cattle Country Music Festival in Gonzales, Texas, which is a big event that draws a lot of country music lovers, on April 10, 2025. She will play in one of the most illustrious country music venues, the Longhorn Ballroom in Dallas, Texas, the very next day, April 11, 2025. Tanya Tucker has never been in her peak, as seen by these forthcoming performances. She is still regarded as a living legend in the field. Tanya Tucker has never given up, from the 13-year-old who rocked the country music scene with Delta Dawn to the legendary figure who once stood on the brink of collapse just to emerge again. Despite not being a fairy tale, her life is an example of bravery, tenacity, and an unwavering spirit. She has endured criticism, condemnation, and being pulled through the tidal wave of controversies. However, she has ultimately stayed upright. And when she takes the stage again in 2025, she will be demonstrating a point rather than merely singing. Even now, Tanya Tucker remains a flame that will never go out. Tanya Tucker is a legend because she dared to live a life without boundaries and without compromise, not just because of her timeless hits. Tanya not only survived the storms, but she used each setback as fuel for an even bigger return. She went from being the 13-year-old girl who startled Nashville to the rebellious icon and then the artist who rose again after scandals threatened to destroy her career. Her name would undoubtedly be inscribed in the annals of country music's chapter devoted to people who resisted giving up. Some can never comprehend the way she lived and loved, while others loathe her. However, it is undeniable that Tanya Tucker has always been fierce, fearless, and unashamedly herself. She won a Grammy when everyone believed she was done. She took the stage with her head held high and continued to sing despite being warned to fade into the past. Tanya Tucker is the only one who truly identifies herself. Perhaps it is precisely the reason she is considered a legend.